Here's Poppy. Oh, that took my arm.
Here, Poppy.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hill Homestead. Today is a beautiful 50-degree weather day. It is sunny and it feels like spring. And when it feels like spring, you begin to get spring fever. So now would be a wonderful time to start thinking about things that you need to do in the spring and planning ahead, such as gardening. But today we are also going to do some farm maintenance as far as getting these pigs some wood chips. And I will tell you exactly where those wood chips came from. So I just dumped a fresh pile of wood chips up here from some work that I was actually doing here at the house. We had some time and I could bring the dump truck as well as our wood chipper from work here to the house. And I did some clearing off of our driveway because when the snow comes, it lays on those branches and really pulls those branches down and will, you know, scrape off the top of your truck and things like that. So I really wanted to cut those down and open it up. And why not, while I was at it, provide some bedding for our pigs, because with all the rain that we've also had, the pig pen has been a muddy mess. So we're gonna go ahead and fire up the tractor and we are going to use this pile and put some good use to it. All right, wood chips are down, and these guys are having a lot of fun playing in it. With there being 4 pigs, those 2 over there in the back, the boys, they kept it pretty clean, but these girls definitely like to root So they are definitely, the girls are the messy ones. What can I say? And they liked it to be a mud pit. So we went ahead and fixed that for them, giving them some fresh new bedding. Now we're gonna move on to the next thing. And the things that I was doing with the bigger tree branches and things like that that would not go through the chipper, I went ahead and stacked up over here. We are making our stockpile, so that way I can measure it off and cut wood stove size pieces, split what needs split, and if it doesn't need split, then it can go ahead and be stacked with the rest of the split wood to be seasoned for the following year. So the next thing we wanted to talk about coming for spring is gardening, and Des is going to tell you a little bit about what we've got behind us here.
Okay, so behind us here is what used to be our garden. Whenever you own a homestead, whether you have 70 acres or 1 acre, a half an acre, you need to utilize every space you can. So here at our house, this used to be a garden that my dad put in, which is why the ground here has a lot better dirt and soil than what most of our property does have. Whenever we bought it, since he had passed away, this had grown back over, so it was just grass on top. And so we had to take the tiller, till it back up. Actually, we had the help of our chickens that scratched through it and helped us till up the ground and make it soft again. After that, we decided we needed more area for pigs and more pasture for our cows. So we turned this garden area into our pig pen area. So instead of it being a piece of the front yard or garden, now it is our pig area. At first we said whenever it comes garden time, we'll just take the pigs out and till it back up and utilize it as our garden space again. But now we've kind of decided that we kind of like the pigs in this area right here. So I think we're gonna leave them. Here next to us too, you can see that the cows are behind us because this was also part of our front yard. However, we fenced it in because this is actually a really good piece of pasture for them. It always has nice green grass on it. So we fenced this area in mainly because when we have our show heifer and our show steer going in the summertime, it's important to still get them out and walk them, but in the evenings when it's cooler out, we'll release them as like a little exercise ring here, and then in the mornings we'll walk them back and put them back in the barn with the fans on them. So they're only out when it's dark due to hair growth, and then during the summer they're back where it's cool and not so hot outside. So like I said, we're going to utilize every inch of space we have. So this is going to stay a pasture for the cows, that's going to stay an area for the pigs, but now we've got to go find another space for the garden.
So there was so much truth to what Des just told you guys, and we are going to practice that ourselves this year. With the addition of all of these pigs, we gave up our garden area. So last year, thankfully, we did not need one, but this year we do plan on doing one again, which leads us to the fact that we need more gardening space. So this area behind us, this triangle that goes along the driveway and back to that pole and then up against our garage over here, has kind of been wasted space for the last couple of years. We have not had a reason to use it other than for maybe a fire pit. We sat here many a nights and just roasted some marshmallows and things of that nature out here, but that's basically it. So the plan is to utilize this space more this year by putting a garden in this area, and it's right outside of our door. Des also mentioned the fact that we use chickens to scratch that ground, and they naturally fertilize that ground for us as well. So if you are someone who is planning to start a garden, but you're not quite ready for it, or you have really hard ground, something that we found is the best natural tiller are pigs. They can clean up your mess from your garden, and they turn your vegetables into bacon. Or like we're going to do this year is after Betty's piglets are going to be weaned, we may throw them in this area and let them till up this ground, because Des said earlier that her dad had done a lot of work on that ground down there, and the rest of our property is a shale pit basically. So throwing piglets in here, letting them root up the ground, fertilize the area, and prepping this for a garden area will be the perfect transition for this little triangle plot for, you know, fruits, or not necessarily fruits, but vegetables mainly this year.
Okay, so in this area we're looking at doing some raised garden beds. It's important that you pay attention and plan out what you are going to plant in your garden, because some things, they don't grow as well together. So it's important to pay attention to that. Some things have vines that you may want to put something for them to grow up. Sometimes, like tomatoes, they need a cage or something to tack to as well. So it's important to think about your spacing and what exactly you're going to grow. So in this area, we're going to put some raised flower beds. We're not going to use this area as a garden, mainly because this tree in the background here, my dad planted that tree, and it's been a staple on this property for almost 30 years now. And so we're not going to take down that tree and put a garden here. That was one thing that my mom, and when we bought this place, my mom really asked us about not doing. So that tree is going to stay, and we're going to put raised beds around it. Okay, so one thing about raised beds is it'll be so much cheaper if you use natural materials instead of buying bags and bags of soil. It will help you save a bunch of money if you just put some cardboard in the bottom of them, add some tree limbs, logs, put on some like leaves. You could put in, then add your compost or manure. If you don't have any compost or manure, I highly recommend finding a farmer who has some. A lot of times at this time of year, everyone is cleaning out their barns and stuff, getting ready for spring. So right now about is the perfect time to be looking for compost. So you can put that in there, and then you can add your soil on top of that. So you may go from like 4 to 5 bags of soil to only needing 1. So that's really important to save yourself some money.
Yeah, and like she said, going to a local farmer, especially for your compost or, you know, any type of soil that you might need. But something else that you could think about as far as the leaves go, because farmers probably won't have leaves on hand, as far as shredded leaves or, you know, just picking up leaves in general. But you could also talk to a local landscape company. A lot of those guys are looking for places to dump that stuff. So if you could utilize that biodegradable, you know, material, such as leaves and sticks, around that time of the year, people are doing spring cleanups and cleaning up their own property. And if you can utilize, you know, their trash, you know, they always say one man's junk is another man's treasure. So you could use that stuff from one of those companies. I'm sure they would be happy to deliver those things to you and drop them at your property so that you could use them and get some good use out of them and save yourself some money along the way. Something that I can't stress enough to you guys about our little bit of experience about gardening is to only plan to plant what you're going to eat. Our first year of gardening, I think we planted about 80 tomato plants, and I'm confident in saying that we used the majority of those tomatoes, the ones that did not, you know, go bad on the vine from too much rain or something like that. There's so many things that you can do with tomatoes. You can eat sliced tomato sandwiches. You can eat tomatoes in general. You can make ketchup. You can make pasta sauce. You can make chili sauce. And my personal favorite is you can make salsa. And they make all kinds of mixes. You can make your homemade pack using peppers. There's so many different options with tomatoes, but we keep it very simple here. We did tomatoes, we do cucumbers, we do corn, and we do sweet peppers. This year we might dabble a little bit into potatoes, and we may try a few other things, but we wanted to make sure that we were making things that we knew we were going to eat. That way we didn't stress about keeping other things healthy and checking on them daily that we may not have had much luck with. One of those being watermelon. I think we planted 10 to 12 watermelon. I think we had success with 2. and there were vines everywhere. The vines started to take over our garden. It really stressed us out and made gardening our first year much more difficult than it needed to be. So it's good to plant things that can be preserved easily and can have multiple uses, and most importantly, something that you will enjoy while you eat it.
Okay, so another important thing is when we talk about utilizing your homestead space is where we have the raised beds and where we're standing right now will be a important place for our meat birds. So here in a couple weeks, our meat birds will be in, and when we put them in the tractor, we'll move them twice to maybe even 3 times a day around the yard. That cuts down on your feed costs if you're going to supplement your meat birds with feed. Normally we do the non-GMO, but we do a high protein. So that helps down on feed costs because they're going to be eating the grass, the bugs, and some of the pasture. Then if you're going to do just pasteurized birds, once again, you just have to move them more frequently so that they continue to stay on that. We keep ours in a tractor, to save from predators, but like I said, we're right now standing in one of our front pieces of our front yards. So we also do this to help green the grass up because it's free fertilizer for our yard. So as you'll be able to see is as we move them, you'll be able to see where they were to where they're going next, and you'll be able to see in a couple weeks that grass come up really, really green. So stay tuned for some more information about meat birds as they are coming in soon.
All right, guys, so I think that's going to button this video up. Like I say, this type of weather, you know, gets our gears rolling for spring. Really makes us start thinking ahead and planning ahead, and I hope you guys are doing the same thing. No matter where you're watching, I hope you have an idea if you're planning to start a homestead, if you know whatever animal you have that might be your starter animal for your homestead, or if you plan to just start out slow and simple with a garden. There are so many different ways to start a garden. You don't even need to till. You can start using 5-gallon buckets with holes in them. And grow peppers and things like that out of that. You know, gardening can go from the smallest of scales to the largest of cornfields or wheat fields or whatever you want to imagine. And that's the great thing about homesteading, is the fact that you can upscale it or you can downscale it. No matter, you know, whatever that your time allows, whatever your, you know, city limits or your acreage just allows you to do. There are endless possibilities and ways to be self-sufficient. So today's video, we showed you what our plans are on doing that, becoming more self-sufficient in our gardening, you know, using our animals to work the ground for us. So I hope you guys got something out of today's video, and thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.